Good morning, Jerry. How are you?
Oh, Emmy,
Oh,
Emmy, there are two things on my mind.
oh,
You
good.
could ask me, if I could
Right.
just preempt this, you could ask me what's giving me joy, or you could
Okay.
ask me what's obsessing me, because
Right.
that's kind of modern life, isn't it? Trying to get
Yes.
pleasure, being obsessed by stuff,
I think good.
rumination,
Yes. Yes. Good.
experience.
Good summary. Let's go. Righto. What is bringing you joy, Jerry? Oh,
The same thing
edgy.
that always brings me joy.
Okay.
It's
What?
really not too exciting, but there's two
Oh,
things that spring into my mind that give me joy.
okay.
One is how many items of Uniqlo I am wearing.
I knew.
Um,
I knew you were going to say Uniqlo. I knew that. I knew it. Anyway, keep going with your Uniqlo.
I am wearing
Yes.
3 items of
Oh,
Uniqlo.
good. Good.
And
Good.
my particular favorite item of Uniqlo is the puffy vest.
You
The
do?
puffy
Yes.
vest.
Yes.
I put to
Yes.
you, I put
Yes.
to you the puffy vest is the fashion equivalent of the mullets. It is keeps the torso
Doesn't
warm
it?
while the
Yes.
arms are ready to party.
And it's sort of a fashion forward move, and it covers a lot of ills. I'm telling you, the puffer jacket, it makes a lot of things look smooth.
And also you can just sort of walk around in your puffy vest. I think puffy vest more than puffy jacket. I think
Okay, all
they're
right.
very
Puffy vest,
I think
no
they're
vest.
overlapping
Yes.
yet very different
Sorry.
constructs.
Yes. Thank you for that detail.
It's
Yeah.
very Degrassi. It's very
It
Degrassi,
is.
the puffy vest. It's
It
very
is
kind of
Degrassi, is it? Yes. Degrassi Junior High, if anyone is wondering what that reference is. It's an aged reference. Canadian, wasn't it?
dark, very
Yes.
dark. Bad
There were
things
there were
happened.
80s. There was denim floating around and weird perms and earrings. I remember there was a lot of
Oh,
Anyway, we're
oh.
off track. Why are we back to joy?
I dare
Right.
you to sing the song. Yes.
I can't even remember it. There was Grange Hill was also another high school young person's ABC special. Great.
Yes, but they
Yeah,
wore uniforms, so we
they
don't
did.
really
We
have
didn't
the
know.
ability
No,
to
good point.
channel that fashion. So
Okay, back to
yeah,
Uniqlo. Yeah, what other do you want to talk about the other items of Uniqlo that you're wearing? I know it brings you a certain, I don't know what, I'll pop my finger on it in a minute. A thrill, Jerry. It's a thrill
it
to
is.
talk
It's
about
a
your. Yes,
thrill. It's
it
a
is.
cheap thrill.
It,
It's a cheap thrill, and it's
yes,
just the
yes.
abundance of cheap
Do,
clothing.
Do you also iron your sheets, Jerry? Are you one of those people who gets caught up in sheet ironing?
I'm not, but I like to iron, and I
You
feel
do.
vaguely. I'm a feminist, but I do like to iron, and I feel
Oh God,
vaguely
you're the one.
suspicious of people who don't iron. People who like, oh, I never iron. I don't even iron.
No.
Oh,
Right, I'll just leave. I'm into drip drying. I don't mind cotton material, but Jerry, you can waste your life in so many more creative ways than ironing.
I don't really think I can.
Okay, I love this about you. So you're a closet ironer, right?
Yeah.
Noted.
I iron as needed. And perhaps it is perfectionism. I don't know what.
No, you like things in order. I'm detecting this about you. You've got a high preference for order. Anyway, back to the Uniqlo, because I get you excited and then I sneakily take away the joy and then we bring it back. I'm sort of conducting some kind of abuse here. Maybe I'm trying.
Don't sneakily take away my joy.
No, anyway, back to, so we've got your puffer jacket, and what else have we got on today?
Some glorious heat tech socks.
Oh,
and
gosh.
when I bought my heat
that's
tech
exciting.
socks,
yes,
I became overexcited, perhaps
Did
even
you?
tipping into mania. Yes.
Oh, yes.
I tried to give the person who showed me where the heat tech socks were, another customer, an Australia Day award. I said, give that woman an Australia Day award. So
Right. Well, that's very patriotic of you.
Am I
Yes.
cheapening the Australian Day Award? I don't think I am. I think I am only honouring
Elevating
it
it.
more.
Yes,
Elevating it.
elevating the thrill.
If you
It's
can
so
help
funny.
a fellow Aussie at Uniqlo find
Yes.
something
So
that
you got
needs to be recognised.
So this is the second item of Uniqlo clothing. What else have you got? You said you had 3 on. Did you have 3 on?
A long sleeve t-shirt in cocoa brown and a budget heat tech fleece. So that's my 4 items.
Gosh, you're a star. And you're thrilled with yourself. Look at you.
I'm absolutely thrilled. Yes. But do you want to tell me do you want me to tell you what I'm obsessed by? Because I am so excited. It's not just the Uniqlo. Although Uniqlo is always enough.
I had to contain myself, but I'm able to just do a bit of mindfulness and I'm there. Okay. All right. Yes.
Right. So what I'm obsessed by is a young person in the profession might almost certainly will be coming into my life. And I have to teach the young person or share with the young person. I mean, I don't even have the right verb.
No, not well. Facilitate,
mentor, supervise, facilitate,
encourage, motivate, inspire, direct, guide, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thank you, human thesaurus. So there's a young person. And
good. Oh, we've got a young person coming. Good.
So what I've done in preparation, right, because I want to nurture the young person and help them, but the young has to find me credible enough to listen to. So I've looked up. I've done a little bit of research here, and I've looked up what the young people say.
Yes, what do they? What are they saying at the moment?
So this is what the young people say, and my aim is to sort of pop this into the conversation. Just
slip it in casually.
Yeah, slip it in casually. Okay,
casually.
So young people say, "This ain't it, Chief."
Oh, right. Jeez. Ballsy.
This ain't it, Chief. Yeah.
This ain't it. So they've become Americans recently. Okay. Yeah.
Or I don't know about that, Chief. Perhaps you could say as a
Chief.
sort of Chief.
Chief. Gee. All right.
Yes.
Okay. All right. No, write that down.
The other thing the young people allegedly say is big yikes.
Do they? What do they mean when they say big yikes?
Internet. I hope you're not insinuating that someone on the internet could be wrong.
No, not at all. I mean,
because that never happens.
All the way. No. So what does big yikes mean? I feel a bit wrong saying it. Big yikes means what? Freak out?
Yeah, or hey, stop it. Yes, I don't know what big yikes means.
Okay, right. We better work that out before we use it with the young people. They might twig that we're not onto them. But all right, okay.
The other thing I've noticed young people say is they'll say it's a lot.
They do say that. I have heard that. It's a lot. It seems like life is it is a lot. Yes, all right.
The young people are right.
They're actually correct about that. Okay, all right, yes, all right. Like housing prices, for example, it's a lot. Am I right?
Yes.
For the young people. Yeah.
Big yikes.
Big yikes.
So,
all right.
It also says, according to the internet, that young people say sus. And I think we said that when we were young.
We were sus about a number of things. I'm still a bit sus about
there
a few
are a lot
things.
of things which are sus.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Oh dear, Jerry's
So we've got big yike at that, Chief. And we also have it's a lot, and we have lit. Do the young people say lit?
The lit. They do say that, I think. I'm pretty sure they do say that.
I think lit means something really good.
It means you're pissed off your face, drunk, intoxicated, substance affected. You are lit and up, usually. It means that you're drunk. Or you're jolly drunk.
How can I put that into a conversation?
Probably not so easily, unless I'm not even sure you can talk about a client's state of mind this client was lit. It's not exactly clinical judgment there, Jerry. It's more colloquial than that. It's more like, yeah. Oh, crikey. Righto. What else have you got?
That's pretty much it.
God,
I think that's enough.
That's a lot. Lit. I think lit's the most funny one, isn't it?
Oh, you're right about that, Chief. Yes.
Chief. So how would you feel if your supervisee called you Chief? Crikey. I don't know what I'm thinking.
I think it has to be said with irony, and I think they could definitely say that with irony. But this is overriding the key issue here.
Yes.
And do you know what I think the key issue is? The key issue is how much do you tell them what they're in for? In other words, 100% honesty, authenticity. Versus warning, this is what it's going to be. Including warning, this is what it's going to be like for you.
Yeah.
This is what's really going on here. Like, how much of the conversation is that versus how much of the conversation is merely rapport building? Can you answer that question?
Man,
I'll let you know what other people have told me.
Yeah.
Other people have told me people can't hear the warning. Yeah. They can't hear the bad things.
I think you're right.
They can't hear the difficult things. You just have to build rapport and later on down the track feed in, how shall we put it, the organizational challenges.
Oh, mate. I think you're probably right. I think, and to be honest, I'm not sure. Oh, this is a fine line to walk, isn't it? Because I think it's important to prepare, but it's not good to crush. Because, I mean, young people, bless them. We were young people once, Jerry, back in the olden days. Back in the olden days, in the old homestead, before they had running water and electricity. And in the olden days, we were also young things, and we had lots of, dreams and hopes and motivation to do our little bit and make things better or contribute. And I love that about young people. I think that's awesome. I think you're probably right. I think you want to be there, build the old rapport, do some kind of safety check thing, safety direction. And then I think it's about personal growth. I think after that, it's about you got to integrate what you're experiencing. So when I get students applying to be supervised by my good self, bless them, a lot of them, they're not quite sure what psychologists do. Not really. And some of them have a lot of trouble getting any sort of access to psychological work, even like an allied role, like a case management role, which is excellent experience for a little while, and they sort of I think they want to leave uni and go straight into the deep end and straight into interpersonal close therapeutic work, and that can be, there can be a few steps that you need to take before you get to that destination, and there's a good reason for it. There's method in the delays, even if it doesn't seem like anyone's officially delaying you. There's a sort of readiness that you need to develop. What do you think about that?
You think they have to go through it?
I think that there's a sort of like an unwillingness to hear some of the more. There's a necessary unwillingness to hear the more alarming parts of the work, because it's like having a baby. If you knew how hard it was going to be to give birth to that child, you just wouldn't do it. It just you need to not know.
That is a really good analogy, because it is very taboo to talk about how hard it is to have a baby.
Well, and then you have the baby, and for most people, you kind of forget the difficulty of the baby arriving. It's sort of I don't know if it's a trauma response or what it is, but you kind of block it out. And I think it's just sort of the same with becoming a therapist, psychologist. It's like you need to believe more in where you're going than being put off by the obstacles to get there. And I don't believe in nurturing naiveness exactly, but
can you say what you just said again? You need to believe in what you're doing
you need to
more than the obstacles. That was lovely. Yeah.
Well, if imagine you're a young person at uni, excited about your career. You're going to work with families, kids, people who need help, supporting people with mental illness in different ways. Journey of self-discovery, let's say you're very excited about this, you really want to do the work, you like relationship, you're interested in that dimension of human experience, and there's a crusty old lecturer person, academic person who's very cynical and burned out by life, and they start hammering on about how horrible it is and it's really them sharing their experience. It's quite different from where the young person is. So they're young. It's necessary for them to have an inspiring dream. It's absolutely.
You're right.
But at the same time, if you had a particularly gnarly client, and I think there's a sort of checking mechanism that prevents this happening a lot. Client leaves, the rapport just doesn't develop. Then I suppose that would be, but that'd come under the category of supervision, wouldn't it? Like you'd be dealing with that in supervision, how to handle that, how to handle yourself in that interaction. What were you thinking of something specific, Jerry?
Well, always lots of specific things, but I've gone back in my head to a memory. You know how you do that? Do we all do that? You go back to a memory and you realise the memory is actually more negative than you
thought
previously remembered it, which is seen, because does the opposite ever happen? Do you ever go back and think, hey, that was actually positive. More positive than I remembered it?
The adaptive function
but
of negative
yeah. The negative memory was with someone I used to work with in my first psychological job out of uni, and they were a very conflictual person underneath a veneer of being nice and easygoing.
Oh, wow.
Which is a very strange combination, but they said in a kind of bitchy way. We were talking about, and that's the other thing about being early career, and early career is what we really mean when we say young people. We're not actually going to blue light discos, but
I think they do the Snapchat now. It's all Snapchat. Get your top off and do a Snapchat. That's not always a good idea, though.
Yes. When you're early career, it's a big deal if somebody's like out of uni a year before you or a year after you, whereas by now, thank goodness, those kinds of differences have washed out and become diluted and become irrelevant. But yes, so this person had been like out of uni a whole year ahead of me.
Oh, yeah.
Wow. They were so experienced.
Okay. Oh, God.
And we were talking about...
The gloating. I hate the gloating. The gloating's awful.
There was gloating. And we were talking about somebody else coming to a meeting, and we were talking about how there would be a lot of political crap at this meeting.
Okay,
and she said, it'll just go over their head.
Whose head? Hang on. Sorry, I'm catching up. Whose head?
Of the third person we were speaking about.
Because
he was a guest or something.
I see. So the visitor to the family barbecue won't notice they're fighting because it'll go over their head.
Yeah,
is that sort of thing?
Which is true. That's exactly it. Thank you. Okay. Which is true, but does it imply? It does not imply that person is stupid. It
implies 100 things. Like, man, it's funny. We should talk about this today. I'm not sure if this is the direction you want to take it in, Jerry, but I was out to dinner last night with some old colleagues, as it happens. It's a very similar theme. And I was remembering why they're old colleagues. It's reminded of why we don't hang out so often. Anyway, the point of it, we were talking about culture in Australia. And
Ooh.
I know, and I think it might relate to your story. And I was trying hard to make the argument that we've got this institutionalized bullying that just everyone normalizes now. That's just a normal way of relating to each other, and it's crushing to the more sensitive parts of human experience, like gentleness and vulnerability and care and things like that. It just gets anyway. So my colleagues were acting this out as I was attempting to have it was a flawed attempt. I see that now. But anyway, I was trying to be authentic. I was saying, just probably trying to share my journey. So that went over their head. But it sounds like your colleague 100 years ago was sort of normalizing that bullying way of relating to each other. That it's a form of, I believe it's a form of abuse. But it's kind of normal it's normal way of relating to it in a social context. But people just normally put each other down in a really brutal way.
Yeah, and this is another word I love, microaggression.
Oh, you do love
you
that
can
word.
get
Yes.
away with the microaggression. But do you really want to?
Oh, mate, that is so awful because, geez, I need to remain verbal to having emotion happen.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Righto.
Yeah,
so you keep going with your story, I think.
I'll keep going with various stories of microaggressions. Okay. No, I'm not trying to wind you up.
No.
The other thing that happened to me, which was really strange, right, was and this happens, right? Not everybody's sincere. Not everybody's going to appreciate your sincerity. But I had this conversation with a colleague and I was trying to be nice. Like, not often that this happens.
Well done.
I particularly clearly remember the incidents where I'm trying to be nice.
Where's my stickers?
I was being authentic.
Good.
Very, I'm not sure of the words, very welcoming
nice.
and sincere.
Mm-hmm.
And this person did not like this. They bitched about me later on.
Really? Oh, I've got something to say about that.
So it doesn't always work, does it? That's the key.
Well, I think if you're
we can only go in there with good intentions.
Well, if in your journey of personal development, recovery, putting yourself together, however you want to describe it, does not include you being okay with your own sincerity, you being honest with yourself, and somebody reflects that to you or maybe you can't even be generous with yourself. And I think this is what happens because of our ingrained culture of bullying, so I'm going to call it that in Australia. It's not a fact, it's just my opinion. And also my lived experience. So if you've got that going on, you've actually learned to relate to yourself in part or parts of yourself as if a bully was hurting you. And if somebody comes along and then provides a sincere reflection to you, it can make you feel really uncomfortable because it highlights those parts of your inner world. And you can sort of have a pushback, aggressive response. It's a personality or an ego or a sense of I construction problem. From the ego, the school of ego psychology, Jerry. Remember that? Did we brush over that?
Or put in a different way.
Yeah.
The schemas are triggered.
Yeah, all right.
Even though this is not the intention.
Well, for sure. And
so
they're uncomfortable, but it's not with you. It's with themselves, their own response to the sincere. They can't be sincere with themselves, which is a special kind of hell.
Really sad.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
Terrible. Dreadful. Horrible way to live. But lots of us do at different times, in different situations. It's hard to... How are you good at being honest with yourself all the time? I'm trying, but, I think I'm getting
I feel
better.
like I'm vaguely in trouble when you ask me that. So I am feeling a little uncomfortable.
So you can feel that finger.
Can I tell you?
Finger. Yeah, all right. Yeah, go. Yes, Jerry.
So where the direction I think this is going in is one that does it hurt us? Does
No.
conflict with someone of the same profession hurt us more so than conflict with someone else? So if I don't get on with another clinical psychologist, is that a greater wound than if I have a conflict with, I don't know, who else am I going to have a conflict with? An Uber driver, a physiotherapist. Just for the record, I never have conflicts with Uber drivers.
No, never, because you get bad ratings then, and that'd be bad. Then the Uber driver doesn't come pick you up. There's a reciprocity thing there that doesn't work. Although we did have to have an app to help us learn that, which is saying something. But back to your tribe. See, you're in the clinical psych tribe, Jerry. So if you have a conflict with a colleague, there's a feeling somewhere in your psyche of being potentially booted out of the tribe because you've got paperwork and all that. But there's a feeling of the family doesn't love me, maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, and just a feeling of that it's a shame we've got so much in common, or that, I mean, that's how I perceive the world, not how everybody else perceives the world.
So paradoxical intervention, I'd love, and this is not to humiliate or embarrass, I genuinely recommend this, sharing that with your colleague about you, revealing the impact her, whatever she did, had on you. I feel really hurt by what you've said to me today. Now I realize there's a million things going off in your head and say that's so inappropriate, but why is it inappropriate? It's true. Like something's happened, there's been an impact on you, you're trying to get a little closer, and the better you can be at articulating what you're doing, the harder it is for them to wriggle out of what they're doing. No, see, we're uncomfortable. Edgy, right.
Perhaps I should tell you what actually happened.
Okay. All right, tell me. I'm being naive, maybe. Okay, tell me.
First of all, where I knew that they hadn't accepted my authenticity was not only in the original phone call, but at a workshop, I entered a room and heard them bitching about me over some kind of electronic link up before the days of COVID. So people were less au fait with this.
Very disappointing.
It was. And then later I saw them at another educational event, and I went hardcore microaggression.
Did you? I just think, see, I'd be quietly thrilled about the advertising, but yeah, good. No, that's a joke. I'm sorry. It's very awkward when you've got colleagues doing that. Okay, yeah, righto. What did you do? Tell me about the microaggression.
Well, first of all,
we're enjoying this. Look at the salacious look on our face. We're salivating. We can't wait to hear about the microaggression.
Oh, look, I'm not going to teach everybody how to do a microaggression. You either know it or you don't.
No, but I want to hear about it. I love the story.
Okay, so the microaggression, the microaggression, it was pretty blatant. It was when they came up to me in a crowded setting and said hello. Mm-hmm. I feel ashamed saying this back. I said hello in a very cold tone of voice. We can reenact the cold tone of voice. A cold tone of voice.
Oh, yeah.
And I did not make eye contact.
Jerry,
so
wow. Right.
That's right, not making eye contact.
No, they were deprived. They were deprived of the loving gaze. Yeah. Okay,
but having said that, like you're finding this funny.
No, I'm sorry. I'm not.
The message got across. Let's just say that.
And then what? See, but then what happened? So we've had the conversations become sort of pre-verbal, and then what happened?
This was encoded correctly because they drifted away very quickly. It was clear. My feelings were clear.
So, big boundary was set, righto. Did they become enlightened? Do we think? Did they? No.
Did they learn
maybe.
anything?
Yeah.
Doubt
Well,
it.
yeah. Oh, it's very disappointing, isn't it? So boring. Is there a see?
Yes.
If I see, being the sort of practitioner I'd want to go and go now. I'd want to have a discussion about who Jerry is in you and why. What is the background dreaming of Jerry? And why are you spending so much time talking about her? Do you have difficulty connecting to your own inner world? And perhaps Jerry's more connected to hers, and maybe that's why you have to talk about her a lot.
Yeah, you're right.
Because it's interesting.
Because where the connection is, or where the practicality is how can I be authentic to the young person, to the early career person?
Right, bring it back.
How can I make sure that relationship gets off on a good footing and not a bad footing? And we're two psychologists. I mean, surely we know how to get a relationship off on a good footing. And yes, I feel that this.
Books. I know Jerry, the universe of relationship, my God. So if you have a relationship between you and a colleague or you and a student, it's not just the two of you, it's also all their family, the board, their employers, their clients. There's like a whole cast in the room. It's not just you and one other person. It's a very complicated relationship to negotiate. But you make a good point. You probably need a sense of what are we doing? How are we going to do it? What are we not doing?
Yes. But then your point is valid as well, that sometimes relationships are set up to be a certain way.
Yeah.
Or stuffed up.
Yeah,
by other people or whatever. Yeah.
Look, I find
we have to transcend that.
There's really, in my experience, there's only really two kinds of students. There's the ones who you don't need to give them much direction at all. They just get on with it. And there are ones who don't seem to be able to find their way out of a paper bag. And I think if they're wired like that, it's probably a reflection of conscientiousness on their part and maybe even ability. And they're probably never going to be not like that. So the conscientious students I've worked with, they're really goal-directed and they just want to get on with it and get through it. They're not that interested in...
Yes.
I mean, maybe I'm a little bit too black and white about it, but they tend to be cautious about getting too close to you. And I think that's probably valid because when you're a supervisor, they don't know how much power, they perceive that you've got the power of life and death over them. And under the old supervision model, you kind of did. Or you could make it very difficult for them if you weren't onto it. So there's a legitimate fear there. But this relates to hierarchies and how our social world is organised according to hierarchies that restrict the expression of aspects of your life, parts of your personality. I'm really intrigued by your colleagues talking about you, though. I so want to go and have a meeting with them and say, so who is Jerry in you? Like, let's have a look at the inner Jerry, because there's an inner Jerry in all of us. And how do you relate that? I just want to go back to that. So,
I think that the problem is opposite. There's not enough inner Jerry in everyone.
It's not expressed, Jerry. It's out there as a potential right at the moment. That's why they're so fascinated. They can't stop talking about you. See, I take it as a sort of weird kind of compliment. I know it doesn't feel like that when you're at a meeting or whatever and everyone's talking about you. But I mean, how boring do you, look, I think you're great, but how boring do you have to be banging on about you all the time? Like, what the heck? Like, what's going on? Don't they have a life? Like, obviously they think you've got one and they need to talk about yours.
We can only hope that's the case.
Well,
yes.
No, it is. It is the case. it's they're borrowing you to connect to that part of themselves, which is underdeveloped.
Oh, that's a deep and meaningful one, isn't it? Yes.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah. So what I really want to do is I want to move forward.
Okay. You want to move forward, righto.
I want to move forward. I want to have authentic relationships with colleagues.
Oh yes, that'd be nice, wouldn't it?
that's what I want. I don't know how to get that.
Oh, bless you. Well, I think we all want that, don't we? But
not many colleagues come up when you're in private practice or even.
Yeah. It's fun. I think it's got to do with how much there's a trust element in there somewhere. But it's not just trusting you or the psychologist or them. It's like you got to trust yourself. You got to trust that you know yourself to a certain degree. And I think the truth is lots of psychologists are doing the work because they're trying to resolve something from the past, something about their experience in community. And that just means that people can be at different levels of healing that, you know. And if you're not very healed and you're confronted with somebody who is more well put together, more congruent, it's going to trigger things in you. It's going to trigger emotions, and you might think that person's causing that, but it's really just your experience. There's something going on for you to have a look at there, because it's never the other person's fault. It never is. It's always something that you need to learn about yourself, and it's hard. I think this points to the collective wounds we're all living with not in it. Oh God, where do we want to start with Australia, Jerry? We get up to this edge and we all get scared. We were talking about this last night at my colleague dinner. God, I was bored. So bored. It's wrong, isn't it?
Was it a good? Was it what was boring? I really want to get into this because
everyone was showing off. Like it was just like,
like, this is a fantastic topic. Sometimes I could talk to myself about this for hours. I have a little chat to myself about what makes a person boring, what makes a person interesting.
So bored.
So over to you. Why were you so bored? Where did the boredom come from?
Okay, so everybody organises themselves into somewhat of a pecking order. I kind of have issues with pecking orders usually because I find them over time they're too restrictive, and I probably value creative experience a lot higher than order maybe. In any case, so somebody's got a big practice. Great, well done. And seriously, well done. That's not nothing, but it doesn't necessarily diminish, say, someone else. So we've all been practicing for the same amount of time, right? And one of us has created quite a large practice, and this person, I love it when I've been doing this almost 30 years, Jerry, same as you. I love it when a colleague tries to school me on the basics of therapy. Just can't stand it. So there's an ego thing going on. Everyone's got their penis out and we're measuring it and we're like, okay, mine's a little bit bigger than yours. And that's what's going on. That's what we're doing instead of intimacy, instead of having an interesting conversation or connecting to the diversity of the universe that we each inhabit. What we're doing is we're trying to show off how, and the reason she was doing that is I'm probably a better therapist. Let's own that. And that's just, I kind of, it is what it is. I've tried to become that. I wanted to be that. It took a long time. So I'm not there I'm not interested in comparing my Willy to yours. But, at the same time, this particular person has created an enormous practice. And
so you're secure in the length of your Willy.
My Willy is very comfortable in my body. I'm happy with the Willy I've got. I'm not worried about the Willy. I'm not troubled by the fact that I'm not a multimillionaire. It's not bothering me at all. I feel I can sleep at night. I think I'm doing good work. I'm doing my dream, Anyway,
that's a really satisfied Willy.
It's a quite happy, yes. Anyway, but see, when you're with colleagues, this is what happens. Everyone's like, she's doing better than I am. Is her Willy bigger than mine? I don't know. Let's have and then there's this microaggression that starts to come out. Yeah. Because it's like, and oh man, and the sugary, syrupy language this woman used to school me on therapy. And what happens for me is I just get bored. I'm like, oh God, we were having an interesting conversation about how we have a culture of Australia where there's lots of bullying and everyone just accepts it and it's probably a legacy of all the massacres that have happened in this country. Anyway, we'll just move on a little bit, but we're going to come back to it. Don't worry about that. Anyway, so that was the hypothesis I was putting forward. So it's like gentle, calm, soothing after dinner conversation. Anyway, so the reaction to this rather difficult, gnarly, which I think is our job, team psychologists. What are we doing if we're not trying to facilitate the healing of the nation? What the hell are we doing? Anyway, so but that's not the reaction I got. It was like, I'd already stroked a Pete Willy, and I'd said, what a great, I said, oh, it's a lovely Willy, and geez, what a number of practice locations you've got. That's really great. But it's good work, but it's not therapeutic work. It's business administration, and we honour the business community. We need you guys to do the jobs you do. It's tough work. It's different work. And without you, we couldn't build anything. So you're playing an awesome role. At the same time, it's not therapeutic work. It's a different skill. It's like talking to someone who's a really good musician as opposed to the producer of the music. This is how I think of it anyway. But that's not the conversation we were having. Everyone just totally was stunned with my hypothesis about the bullying and the massacres, and where there's a link there. We need to talk about it, and we're not talking about it. And we just went back to she started to. I can't even recount the story. I'm so upset about it. She started to tell me about how to handle this issue in therapy, and I went, oh God. Just went, oh yeah, well yeah, we can't. I obviously need to be learned these things. I just got bored. Because there's an edge there. There's an edge to the horror, probably, and the confronting your own personal limitations in the face of something so powerful. But honestly, we were always going to come across this as psychologists in the journey. We were always going to come across this, certainly in Australia. What are we doing if we don't? Anyway.
Do you know where else the edge is? The edge is that there is any other filter, there is any other facet through which to view the human experience other than psychology. And I would argue, of course I would, that, clinical psychology is the most important one. But what about history? What about fiction? What about anthropology? What about sociology? What about
well, they're all stories. Like
public health.
They're big stories. And one of the points I was making last night is that I know this is the deep end, and we probably are going to run out of time, but there's a phenomenon called white person guilt. Now, I don't know exactly how to describe this, but it does show up especially in Australia, when you get right down to the bottom of somebody's story. If you happen to be white, and there are people walking around our community who've got Indigenous heritage woven into their ancestry, but they've also got a white family story as well. So there's this conflict going on inside your family tree, and I was raising this up, and it can be an obstacle to recovery at a very deep level. It's not a conscious level. It's like there's a feeling of I shouldn't be here, or I'm benefiting from this, but the cost of my benefit was that others suffered. And when it's very unconscious, it's not something that you can easily point. It's like shame. It is a source of shame, really. And I was bringing this up, which I thought was fucking more interesting than comparing willy lengths. But anyway, I said I believe that the antidote to this is a lot of storytelling. So those paradigms, they're essentially stories. It's like, who are you as a story? What is the story of your people coming to Australia?
Yes.
And because they are important stories, and they're part of what makes you who you are, and being able to, and helps you articulate who you are. Like, you are a story woven in a story of your ancestors, and they're in a story of a country, and the story of people. And it's the one way to understand who you are. Anyway, we all like stories. Like, if someone starts a good story, you just will find yourself listening. There's something neurological going on. You just recognise the beginning, the middle, and the end. Anyway, Jerry, that's what was going on last night.
The key question here is, did anybody talk about their renovations?
Look, we went close, and I think I had to leave before we got into the renovation conversation. Oh, yeah. But it shows just how hard it is for people to connect without that hierarchy. Hard. The hierarchy shows how you talk. It is
really hard. And it's like the dinner. Sorry, I don't wish this on you, Imi, you poor creature. it's like the dinner needed to be longer because
I
you
said
have
that
to
too.
kind of go through the Willy measuring, the discussion of renovations, and gradually
kids. You got to talk
warm
about
up.
the kids. Yeah.
Yeah, and gradually warm up to anything authentic or at a deeper level, or what we would perceive as anything more interesting. Got to warm up your dinner.
I was struck by what was going on because I thought maybe I have moved so far away from the normalized wounds that we call mainstream culture that I don't, it was almost like they were speaking a different language. And I was like, oh man, I can't even remember how to talk this language. Because you have to squash yourself a lot. You got to really diminish yourself into something very uncomfortable. Can't wear Uniqlo and feel comfortable, Jerry.
Oh,
I know, it's very sad.
That's maybe what Uniqlo represents to me.
I think it does. I was thinking about you and Uniqlo.
It also represents excitement. I was pretty excited when I went to the original Ginza Uniqlo in Tokyo, 8 floors of Uniqlo.
Oh, that was a big day,
mothership.
Wasn't it?
Oh, there's been more than one day there.
See, I know what it means. It's like it felt like home, didn't it? You feel at home in the Uniqlo. Well, that's what you want. You want to. I felt at home in my little world, and I went out into town. Oh my God, I went into town, and that's a battle all by itself. It's like, even though it was a straight line, it's still a battle.
Was anyone with you? And wanting to talk about deeper issues?
Oh no, they were. They just, what I found truthfully is that people could not articulate the conversation. They could feel it. They were absolutely aware of it, and I think a lot of us in Australia are aware of this feeling in the background of just it's unfinished business. It's just. And there's a lot of really good intentions, but I think you've got to sort of build yourself up to be able to have that to speak the right words, to make sense of what's happened. Because it's not just one person or one incident. I mean, there are place names in Australia, especially in the secret city we originally come from, nearby. There's lots of scary place names like Slaughter Falls. And when you're a child, you'll be taught this name and, oh, you were going to Slaughter Falls. But it's called Slaughter Falls for a reason.
Yes.
Not a good reason.
Yes.
Anyway, we're into it, aren't we? This is the flow over from last night's conversation. And your microaggression interest, Jerry. Let's do some closing thoughts on the microaggression. I'm just trying to sum up now. Trying to do the sum up. So what's the take home we can give Jerry for the microaggression moment?
Sometimes microaggressions are needed. Sorry, don't do this at home, kids.
Yeah, no. When there's okay, how about this?
If someone pushes your authenticity, go microaggression.
If we were going to use a keto, Jerry, what we would do is we would go get closer to the adversary, not get further away. So you get right up in their face and connect to them and go, how are you today? Are you all right? And then hold the fucking thing. And then you're using aggression, but you're using compassion as well. Like, are you okay?
It's Australia. Then you have to ask them how their renovations are going.
Now, how they're retaining. Is the retaining wall built? Yeah. Oh,
and see, that's why it's so hard with early career.
Oh yeah.
Psychologists. You don't want to make them feel bad for not having any renovations.
They've got to walk through the trenches a little bit themselves, though. Like this. I mean, we didn't design their culture, unfortunately. We need more than just you and I having a chat to sort it out. Although it's a very good start, I'd just like to encourage us. Anyway.
So, Emmy.
Closing thoughts. What have we got?
Yes. Wow, it's been lit.
It's been, I don't know. It's not in a substance use sense, though. In the
big yikes.
Big yikes. All right. Until next time.
Big yikes. I'm going to go
Yikes.
in there with authenticity and key
Jerry,
phrases.
get close and connect and share the vulnerability.
Yeah.
That's a really good idea.
I hope the randos don't find me sus.
A bit weird. Well, no, it's a given, and that's not a bad thing. All right, Hot Pants.
It's a given, and our conversation was wonderful. It was authentic. It did touch on serious themes, and there is no more serious theme than how people are enjoying their Uniqlo.
That's so going into the description for our installment. Okay, all right. See you, Jerry. See you next time.
Bye. May all your thermals be budget. Bye.
Bye.